and welcome to another episode of Work 2.0, the podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Wells, and this is where, once again, we talk all things AI, power, money, and the future of work. My next guest is an Emmy Award-winning New York Times bestseller. She's known as a motivational voice online, and she is known to be an encouragement. She's known for her soulful vegan food cooking, absolutely scrumptious recipes. But I think there's an underrated side to her that is not so much spoken about, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. She is a multi-hyphenate business leader. And today, this guest is none other than Tabitha Brown. Welcome to the show, Tabitha.
Hello there.
Right. So let's get into it. First of all, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this conversation, I've seen your latest necklace and I absolutely love it.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, talk us through what's the story behind that.
So God is love is literally like one of my favorite scriptures, right? And a lot of people always I think forget that that's what God is all about, right? But you can sometimes get focused on religion and forget the love part, that we're supposed to lead in love in all that we do. And so it's something that I used to put on t-shirts and write all the time. And I told my husband years ago, I was like, I want a necklace that has God is love. And I like visualized the necklace. I was like, I want it to be gold. I want the O to be a diamond. And then I want the heart to be a ruby.
Wow.
And so I told him, and of course he couldn't find it. So he went to our jeweler and had it made for me. And he told me about, I think 5 Christmases ago. It's been like 5 or 6 years that I've had it. And I never take it off really, unless I'm like working on a set or something and it's, doesn't go with character. But I pretty much wear it every single day. And for many years, people would say, oh, where did you get your necklace? And I said, oh, my husband had it made for me. He, designed it for me. And then a couple of people even stole the design and started to try to like sell them and do different things. And I was like, oh, that's what people do. But I was like, maybe I'll create it and allow people to share in the messaging, because I think we all need to be reminded that God is love. And I get so strangers, I can be, on a plane or in the airport or in a store, and they'll see the necklace and they'll say, you know what, thank you. Your necklace just spoke to me. And so now knowing other people are wearing it and putting that message in the world as a reminder that God is love, I think it's just part of purpose work. So that's the God is love necklace. So available at tabandchance.com.
Well, we're going to get more into that. I'm going to ask you some more about like how you partner with your family, because that's another thing in itself. Before we get into that, a lot of people try to build personal brands. The thing about you, Tab, is you've built an authentic soul. Like, you're not just trying to be a personal brand. You are who you are. What people see on social media is exactly who you are. Today we've got, and I know you started before this, but we've got a lot of AI generated content, unfortunately, AI influencers, right?
Yeah.
How do you protect the humanness of your brand and ensure that you continue to stand out? And are you worried at all that an AI influencer could take over your brand?
I'm not worried that an AI influencer could take over my brand, because you can't nobody be Tab but me. Okay. I think just staying rooted in reality and being who I am. I do a lot of things in the moment. Right? And when you do things in the moment, honey, it don't get no more real than that.
Right.
If something hits me in the moment, I'm like, oh, let me get my phone and record it and post.
Right.
AI has to be planned. It has to be programmed. It has to be told what to do. Me, like, I allow God to deposit inside of me, and then I share that. And that's a different take, So, I don't worry about it. I think that AI, we're in a world where you got to figure out it ain't going nowhere. So we have to figure out how you can use it to benefit your business, how you can create jobs with it for, as people are losing their jobs. But stay true to who you are, because nothing can replace human connection. Nothing.
100%. Yeah, 100%. That's actually a recurring theme I'm seeing a lot when I've been interviewing people recently at different levels, CEOs, directors. They all say the same thing, that at the end of the day, like, your number one asset is that human connection. Like, replace that. So that's amazing. Now let's go into the art of the pivot, right? One thing I've noticed is like, obviously you've got so many different businesses. You started, we know your story as an Uber driver, and you went from there straight up and kept building and building and building. One of the things you built, or should I say acquired, was the franchise Kill My Name. Now that was in LA. I think it was around for about 8 months, and then it shut down. Now people navigate a lot of changes, and leaders face apparent failure. I want to know how did you learn to pivot, not just from Uber to being an entrepreneur, but facing apparent failure or loss with Kill My Name? How did you pivot from that, and what did that teach you? And what's your reflections on that?
So just so we know correctly, so Kill My Name is an existing restaurant that still exists in Chicago, right? Neiman is the founder, and he's the owner, who I love and adore. He's a great friend of mine. Yes. And I love the restaurant. And so when being in Chicago, staying there while I was shooting, I talked to him, and he was thinking of opening a Kill My Name here in LA. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. I'll be your partner, right? It just felt good in the moment. It almost felt like a sign, because I had thought about opening a restaurant. And when he said it, I was like, oh, maybe this is my sign. I'm going to do this. No restaurant business, no thought about the demand of the schedule, anything. Although when he presented the idea, he was like, absolutely, we could do this. I run the business. As an investor, we partner, everything is basically 50-50. I'm an owner, he's an owner, but I'm the face that will help bring people in and all things. And I thought, this is a great idea. But getting into it, what I realized about myself was like, for the restaurant business, is such a tough business.
Oh yeah.
And if you're not able to be present the way I like to run business, like in all my businesses, I like to know what's going on at all times, right?
Yeah.
Because I never want to be blindsided by things, right? You can have a great partner, but you still got to know what's going on, right? And if your partner doesn't share those things with you, it can hurt the business, So for us, although we were sharing everything, we understood like it's some stuff that ain't working, and this is not making sense, and I can't be available, because Neiman was going back and forth, Chicago to LA, and my schedule was demanding, and there was too many issues with the building, too many issues, and I just had to make an executive decision and say, you know what, we can't do this. There's too many things, too many loopholes, too many things going wrong, and we're gonna have to shut it down. I also don't want to set up anybody to fail, and that's what it was feeling like. But in failure, it's also a win.
Yes.
And so during that time, right, when Target was a great thing for us all, and it was a great partner for me, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna put food in Target.
Right.
And closed the restaurant, and I pivoted to the retail space of having food there in my partnership. And so it worked. It worked for me in the moment. I did lose money, of course, in the restaurant business, but I gained so much more. And my friendship with Neiman just continued to grow. And I just learned so much. I was like, I know that if I ever open a restaurant again, it has to be my way. I have to be available. Like, it has to be done a certain way. You know what I mean? So it was such a great experience, but it was also a great way to learn how to pivot.
Wow. Do you think then that you would have ventured into your Target partnership, or had that opportunity, if it wasn't for the restaurant, or were you planning to do that anyway?
Yeah, I was already in partnership with Target.
Okay.
I already did like clothing and furniture and all the things.
Yeah.
It was a limited time thing at the time.
Right.
But when this was happening, I had the opportunity to go evergreen and have my stuff permanently there.
I mean, yeah.
So I took that as the opportunity to say, well, you know what? I can't give people the restaurant, I can at least give them food to cook at home. And so that's how that happened.
Wow. I think that's incredible, because there are a lot of people who will take failure, and I say that in quotation marks because it really isn't. They'll take it personally, like, oh my days, this is terrible, not doing this again.
Yeah.
The way you framed it and the way you looked at it is what we say is a growth mindset, where you looked at it as, here's what I've learned from this. I've realized if we're going to do this again, I need to be fully present, knowing what's going on, fully available. You realize what the pros and cons of it were, and it was a learning experience for you. And you did that, and you were able to then expand into evergreen food at Target, which probably wouldn't have occurred to you if that hadn't happened. I think
Yeah.
that's incredible. Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's talk about Fridays with Tab and Chance. And of
Yeah.
course, with your husband, you also have this partnership where you also, like with the necklace that we were talking about at the beginning, you're expanding into a family empire. Now, that's pretty tricky. Okay. I know. Okay. Working with family can be tricky, but it's obviously a beautiful experience. There's ups and downs to it. Do you have like house rules for business leadership as well as maintaining that relationship and not blurring the lines? How do you do it?
So we don't necessarily have house rules, right? But we do know each other. So my husband, he'll tell you I work too much. I love the business side of things. I do work a lot. I'm very focused on it. Um, my mind is constantly always thinking ideas. I'm up late at night doing emails and research and all the
Wow.
things
Right.
where he just knows what he likes and he also knows what he ain't gonna do. And I know that about him. And so that is our balance, right? I'm not gonna try to force him to think like me, be like me, do business like me. But what he is my great partner who we can bounce ideas off of each other. When it comes to fragrance, he knows the scents that he loves. He knows how to put them together. He knows what something looks good. He knows great names. Like all of the things that we come together and put our heads together to
Right.
create, those are his strong points. So we lean into his strong and we lean into my strong. And then the things that are not his like strong points, he'd be like, you got it back. I ain't finna get over there because that ain't my business. All right.
Right.
Knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses and being able to fill in those places for each other, right? It's just like he knows that I'm very easygoing. I try to find the good in everybody. Sometimes that makes people try to take advantage of me. He
Right.
ain't like that. He don't trust nobody, right? So he might second set of eyes. And he be like, nah, man, I don't trust that. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, oh, I think they all right. Nah, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a great balance. And we don't really talk about business when it ain't time to talk about business.
Oh,
We parents and we lovers, honey, we friends, and we do. He also has his Team Chance basketball, which is his
yes.
nonprofit. So he be doing basketball 4 days a week. When it's weekends and we going to them games, baby, it ain't got nothing to do with have a chance. We Team Chance,
Right.
right? So everything has its time.
Yeah.
If you can respect that and you always keep love at the center, you be all right.
So you're maintaining those boundaries. And most importantly, I love what you said about like playing to each other's strengths, knowing this is your strength, this is my weakness. And kind of
Mhm.
like he's compensating where you're not so good and you're compensating where he's not so good. It's not a bad thing, weakness. It's just that one is stronger than the other. And you're blessed to have him as your business partner in that way because he, like, like you said, he's your second set of eyes, right? And things that you might have think, he's there to remind you, no, let's stay grounded.
Exactly. One of
Love
the
it.
things I love about him.
Beautiful. Now you went from being an Uber driver to being, a global face, a very much recognized face. I'm in the UK and I recognize your face. So that says a lot, right? Because the UK is very much to ourselves. So
I love y'all. When I came there last year for my book, I did a 2-day book event at the British Book. What is it? The festival.
yes.
Like, oh my God, everybody showed up. I love it. I could live in London. I love it. So
Oh, yeah. You'll say that until you get here and then you realize London ain't all that.
okay, well the people was giving me good love. All right.
Yes, yeah, for sure, for sure. So going from an Uber driver to being globally recognized, um, what would be your advice for people in my audience who are in like their Uber phase, right? So they're in a job that they may not like, or it's just paying the bills, but it's not their vision,
Yes.
right? They've got a big vision, they can see it, but their current role isn't matching that. What would be your advice to them?
Remember, it's temporary
Mhm.
and focus on your vision, right? Do something towards it every day, no matter how big or small. Do one thing towards it every day. Leave room for your vision. Leave room in space for God to do what He gonna do. Don't try to control everything. Leave
Right.
leave that space so that God can still get in there, right? But also leave like enough energy for yourself. Because sometimes we'll go and we'll work a job and we be tired. but we got to leave at least a good 30 minutes to an hour for us to do something towards our dream and goal.
Is there something specific within that 30 minutes to an hour that you would say absolutely has to be done, or is it depend on the person?
It depends on the person, right? Some people are readers, and so they'll go and they'll read a chapter on like a business book or something, right? Or some people aren't readers, and they'll go, maybe they'll watch or listen to a podcast that helps them, get creative or help them understand whatever their vision is. Maybe it's a person who's an artist, and they've been writing, or drawing. Do a little bit for 30 minutes to an hour. Finish that masterpiece that takes time. Like for me, I just finished writing my first draft of a script. It's a short story, and it took me so long to finish it because I could only dedicate a certain amount of time, and I would do it in the middle of the night, right? But I knew I had to get this done, but I had to, I do a lot of things, but I put a time for that. I'm like, okay, I know I can give it an hour. So let me
carve it out.
Let me dedicate some time to that. And then eventually it was completed. Now the rough draft is done. I still got to do rewrites, right?
Yeah.
But I know the foundation has been laid. So if I just do something towards it every day, Rome won't built in a day, ain't that what they say? And you got to remember, the same day that you plant the seed is not the same day you get the harvest. It's gonna take time. But as long as you do something towards it every day, once you plant the seed, you got to water it. Got to go talk to it a little bit, nourish it, make sure your ground is good. Just keep pursuing it. That's the only thing. Don't lose sight of the vision. Don't get distracted by your temporary season. Don't be discouraged by your temporary season. Everything plays a role. If I had not been driving Uber, I would have never stopped by Whole Foods and ate a sandwich and did a video that changed my life.
Wow.
Everything plays a role.
I love that you said that, because I can personally relate to that in my own experience as well. When it comes to, you're talking about leverage and things compounding. And I think, especially with AI, everyone wants to rush into success. They want it now, overnight, make money overnight. Google searches for that are crazy. For me to get to where I am now in my career, it was through leverage and compounding small opportunities. I would have never dreamed I would be where I am now as, senior Forbes contributor and a global leader and a thought leader. But then I got to where I am now because and acquired the respect of my peers and the industry. Because I compounded leverage. Like you said, you were an Uber driver, but you used the opportunity you had. You stopped at the Whole Foods and you did that video that went viral. I took small opportunities and I made those things compound to where I am now. So I think if people are in it, like what you're saying, if people are in it for the quick fix, overnight success, is not for them. They'll quickly be eliminated. What you've done is you've built over time, and each opportunity you built more and more and more. Like you've got so many brands, and you're an actress, and there's so many things you do. And being an Emmy Award winning, 3 times, all of that from one small quote unquote small action in the Uber, which compounded, and you built from each one. I love it.
Yeah, and then also use your moment.
Yeah.
Right. I could have went viral and just accepted, oh wow, I went viral.
Right.
But no, now I'm like, oh, now I get to build on top of that.
Right.
Stay consistent and see what happens.
Yes. True. Well, let's close this out by thinking about your empire, being as we're talking about compounding. For example, people like Oprah Winfrey, she built an empire based on her connection, right? She's one of a kind. You, I see, also as one of a kind. You're building this empire based on soul, connection, that human experience, like you said at the beginning. AI can't replace that, right?
Yeah.
So looking like 10 years from now, taking a long shot, let's say we're in 2036, which sounds crazy in itself, right?
I know, it does sound crazy.
What do you think would be the one part of the Tabitha Brown empire that's going to evolve by then that hasn't been built as yet?
Oh, my production company.
Oh, tell me about it.
Movies, television shows, things that will be life-changing for people to witness. I am very intentional about taking my time to do it right, but I want to create stories that are about supernatural experiences, entertaining angels and encountering God on every level. And it's less faith-based and more reality. Because a lot of times people hear faith-based and they think, oh, it's like, Hallmark, a Lifetime. It's like, no, we're talking about everyday people having everyday experiences with the other side. And I want to create television shows and movies about it.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that happen. You said it on global media, so we're waiting for it to happen now. We're holding you to it. Well,
Yes.
Sam, thank you so much for joining Work 2.0, the podcast, and speaking to our audience. I'm sure they were inspired, and I'm sure you've shared so many lessons about your business leadership and your partnership with your husband and your vision for the future that they will not just inspire, but I'm sure will definitely provide something for the next generation, incoming generation of leaders to hold on to as they progress in their careers as well. Well, audience, thank you so much for listening to Work 2.0 or watching Work 2.0, the podcast, wherever you're catching this. If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to subscribe if you're on YouTube so you never miss an episode. If you're catching this on Substack or on Apple, wherever you're seeing it, follow this episode, like, comment, rate it, and share it with a friend or a coworker. And you can also follow me on LinkedIn for more episodes of Work 2.0, the podcast. And I'll see you next week Monday, for our next guest.